Hello again, everybody. It's Takedown Wrestling. I'm Scott Casber. We have a very special opportunity to head over to Lorain, Ohio to talk to DJ Danny Nova. If you're not familiar with that name right now, you should be. You should be getting there. Danny Sheehan has been talking wrestling on international airwaves for the last several months, and he joins us now. Danny, how are you?
Doing good, Scott. It's a real pleasure to be with you.
It's good to talk with you, my friend. I know that you were a wrestler. Let's start from the beginning. And by the way, big thanks to Jake Herbert for hooking us up. So you and I need to talk about how you got to this point. How did it all start for you in the sport?
Back when I was 10, 11 years old, I was one of those kids who had too much energy and really couldn't sit down. So I was always getting in trouble. Football really wasn't doing it for me. Hockey didn't do it. My dad's like, we need to get him beat up. And my dad called one of my friends who wrestles, like, listen, this is what happened. Danny he has too much energy. We need to get him beat up. Your son wrestles, right? Yes. Can I get a flyer? Absolutely. After the first week, I absolutely fell in love with it and never looked back since. It always just kept on wrestling, finding ways to get better. You know, it's been absolutely detrimental in my life. Honestly, I probably wouldn't be here speaking with you today if it weren't for wrestling.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Because I'd probably be in jail because I was always getting into trouble, and it taught me a lot of life lessons, discipline, respect, hard work, and it gave me the work ethic to always, always, always try to succeed and be the best in everything. Always find a way to win, whether it be on the mat, in my scholastics, or now, since I graduated college, in my field, which is IT, which is informational technology, also known as I work on computers for a living.
Right, yeah, also known as. Well, that's one of the reasons you and I hooked up is because of your expertise with computers. Talking with Jake Herbert, it was a pretty quick question you answered. You were able to solve the problem in short order, but it was all because of wrestling that we made initial contact. So let's talk about where it started, or not started, but where it stopped for you. It wasn't that long ago. You were on the mats.
No, actually, I'm still on the mats. I'm still training, still competing, and I'm also into coaching a local high school part-time. Honestly, what wrestling has given me as a man and as a person, I will never be able to give back what I've learned and gained and grown from. So that's why I feel like coaching is so detrimental to me to help shape these boys into becoming men and learning the things that I have.
TJ Danny Nova joins us. Danny Sheehan, otherwise known out of Bay Village, Ohio. Lorain is the school system he serves. And you can find him online at radionova-spain.com. When I say Spain, I'm talking about the country Spain. So it's radionova-spain.com. And on Saturdays and Sundays, he's talking about wrestling with some of the biggest names in the sport, including 2012 Olympian Jake Herbert. Why Jake Herbert?
Jake, back when him and I were both in college, I was able to watch him, via the internet, Big Ten Network. He had that personality that he can reach out to anyone and people will listen. He was actually the first person I interviewed on my radio show back in March, and it just took off ever since. Jake started passing my number around. People were asking for it. And the premise of that is people at the time, we were one of, I believe, 8 or 9 sports that were on the chopping block that I wanted to use radio because, thousands and thousands of people listening, people are going to do something. And then we successfully made it into the top 3, and I'm still continuing to bring wrestlers on. And I still want people to hear, personal stories like what you're doing with me, what wrestling has done for them, how it's just more than a sport, how it teaches you about life that you really can't get anywhere else.
So the idea, of course, is to talk about a lot of different topics, but wrestling is your passion, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No question about it.
So people can find you. What time do you think it would be Ohio time? If we're talking in terms of U.S. times, what time are you on the air?
4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
4 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 4 to 6, 3 to 5 Central Standard Time, doing the math backwards, and I'm actually getting kind of good at it. Not Danny good, but I'm getting good at it. So, wrestling right now, obviously Sunday, it's a big news. Around the world, they're talking about it. Buenos Aires, that's where they're going to be casting the vote, as it were. First, they have to cast the vote, Danny, to take wrestling out of the core sport, out of the Olympics as a core sport. Then they vote it back in, potentially, as a professional sport. My question to President James Ravinac just an hour ago was, what happens if they don't vote it out of the Olympics as a core sport? And that is indeed a possibility. What are your thoughts in that regard? Wouldn't it be easier for them just to say, hey, wait a second, let's vote no as opposed to voting yes?
From what I've seen in the past, 8 months, since February, I should say, if wrestling is out, that's going to cause riots. A lot of people are going to be mad. There's going to create a lot of unnecessary drama and trouble. Wrestling is, Jake showed me an article about 2 twins in the womb that were kind of, pushing around for space. It's in our DNA, back when the Greek gods were, they would wrestle to prove themselves in the Roman and Greek days.
But that was then. This is now, right? I mean, we have to focus on the 18 to 34-year-old demo right now. What looks good on TV? What's sexy? What's selling?
Wrestling is not about that. The people who truly understand wrestling, they do it for the purity of the sport, not for fame, not for money. They do it because it's what they've learned and what it's done for them. People just don't understand what we have to do to our bodies physically to cut weight, to always work out, 5 days a week, to work out 2-3 times a day. That's setting building blocks, for life. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned. And I try to tell my boys, yes, it's hard, but what about, this upcoming senior class I'm going to be coaching? I'm going to try to work them hard to get them ready for college, to make sure they stay on top of their studies. If some of them happen to get recruited for wrestling, they're going to see how much what I'm doing for them by taking the experience that I've gotten through some international tournaments and college wrestling, how it's going to be so much easier on them because they already have that building block. I can already do this.
Good point. So they're stronger for having gone through it. And while that may be the inside story, the external story is we need those eyeballs on TV. We need that popularity to increase. 177 countries have rallied together in support of the sport, which gives you, I got to believe it gives you, as it does me, a little bit of pause, almost really 177 countries. Then you realize how many kids, how many, all the way up to the point where they're in the Olympic Games, how many folks that absolutely represents, and it's a pretty good-sized number.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, I was really, really taken back by it to see all these different countries come together for one cause, to keep wrestling in the Olympics. It was just mind-blowing to see all these countries put any differences away, especially when Iran and Russia came to the U.S. to do Wrestling United in L.A. and Rumble on the Rails. The Iran has not been on U.S. soil for over 11 years.
It's crazy.
And for them to come to our country in one of the biggest cities, in New York, and do something that big, tickets were $1,000, and for them to come in and just pack that place. That I just kind of sat back in my chair. I'm like, this is really happening. People are putting aside those, political differences because we all believe wrestling is something that so great other than just a sport.
We're talking with DJ Danny Nova. DJ Danny Nova, you can hear him on radionova-spain.com. Saturdays and Sundays, you can go to the website. It's radionova-spain.com. The schedules are there for weekend days and weekdays as well. So many great, talented folks are there, and I think you'll enjoy some of the programming. Actually, I think you enjoy quite a bit of it. You ever get a chance to put music on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
I started off just kind of doing, 2-hour sets, just straight music, talk here and there, play, a couple of advertisements. Then what really got me sparked and really excited is that after doing some of these interviews, I was approached by the director in Spain. I got in a car. I had to wake up pretty early so it was around noon their time. I think it was like 5 or 6 in the morning. They saw so much popularity across the board watching the server traffic. Can you get someone to do a 1-hour talk show? I'm like, yes. As soon as I ended that conference call with the directors, I called up my buddy Jake Herbert, who was our 2012 Olympian at 84 kilograms. Like, Jake, I just got approached by our directors. I want to do a talk show for an hour. Can you help me out? Jake's like, tell me the date and time and what we're going to be covering.
And you told him?
Oh, yeah, and then we got a lot of companies were very gracious to do some great giveaways and stuff. It was very humbling to see all the server traffic that I can see just shoot up for all these different people wanting to hear us talk about wrestling. And,
how about that?
And, you know, I have access to our email server for people to email in questions, comments, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people are very upset and bothered by this. You know, even though people may not have a Twitter account or they may not be posting on Facebook, the feeling that I got from that talk show is people are very upset because one of the topics that I always covered is, you know, if we don't get back in, this is going to affect the youth. We're taking away dreams of these kids who are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old over what? Some political garbage?
That's basically it. It was one guy upsetting the other guy. Basically, it boils down to that. And once we get past the politics of the sport, I think we can find some agreement. DJ Danny Nova joins us. Radio Nova, look for him online. And I noticed you're wearing some headphones there. They are one of our sponsors. We're going to give them some love. Let's talk about Flips Audio. Look for them online at flipswrestling.com. Whether you train alone or train out loud, it's flipswrestling.com. Danny, you're wearing them there. Can you turn your head just for me just a little bit so we can see the Flips logo? There it is. Yeah, you got it. And we appreciate those guys, Rocco Mansueto and everybody at Flips Audio, flipswrestling.com. All right, so when you think of the vote Sunday, 12 noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central, it's a momentous time for not just the sport, but the people in it. It's really the first step, though, isn't it, Danny? What are your thoughts past, let's say past Sunday? Wrestling has a lot of ground still to cover.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, people, don't be afraid to jump on social media. Tweet about it, Facebook, Instagram, you know, go to our website at thekeepolympicwrestling.com. Share your stories, like how I'm getting all these other wrestlers. Because this is a factor, you know, because social media is going to be the next level marketing because everything is so fast these days. Social media and everything that you can do from a smartphone is absolutely amazing coming from the IT world. That's what a thing that they're considering is, you know, if we can promote through social media, it's going to help marketing in so many different ways, and technology is always going to keep growing and evolving, and there's going to be new ways, and that's what in my opinion, helped spark some of this. Our social media, people talking about it, saying how it's wrong, you know, this hashtag take a stance, you know, people taking stances, you know, it's just more than taking a stance because you're taking a stance for wrestling in what you believe in.
So physically and emotionally both. I mean, it's not just figurative, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Take a stance. By the way, over 1,000 photographs were sent into USA Wrestling of people taking a stance, and they were taken some of the most visual places around the world, at the Eiffel Tower, the Taj Mahal, the Washington Monument, the steps of the Capitol, many different capitals from around the country in each individual states, but many different countries as well. And I think that's important to note that, again, this was a very big effort. Just one of the many creative things that were done to help raise awareness, to help unify the team, as it were, of kids and fellow sportsmen alike across the country. The young women, the young men of the sport, of course, being the beneficiaries. Radio Nova, that's where you're going to find our guest, Danny Sheehan. Danny, what do you want to leave our listeners with as a closing thought? Because we want to do this again with you, not just in Lorain, Ohio. We want to get together wherever we are and talk wrestling. It's something you and I have enjoyed. At least I have. I hope you have.
Oh, I'll sit down and talk wrestling with anyone. Just sit me down. I'll talk wrestling for hours. No question about it. Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts.
Never really was asked that before.
Well, I don't want you to close them completely or permanently. I would like you to leave some of your thoughts wide open for a further discussion.
I just want to thank everyone for tuning in to Takedown Radio. What you're doing is absolutely great. Having me on as a special guest talking about my personal experience, and I can't thank Jake Herbert enough for putting us in contact together. Something as simple as a tech IT question, and it turned into this. Just because of one sport, I've been able to network, and that's huge in today's world, networking. So I guess my final thoughts are, don't kill our dreams, don't kill our sport. It's the oldest sport known to man. Why take something away that can do so much good?
Danny, I appreciate that. I truly do. My closing thought, and I've got one. I've been thinking about it. As Danny has, as I have, I'm going to ask each and every one of you, have you given your heart to the sport of wrestling today? Have you given everything you can give, whether that's in practice or as a coach? Have you done what you can do? Have you done everything that you can do? Ask yourself at the end of the day, if you truly love this sport, if you're going to do all that you think you can do, have you done it? Well, Danny and I are going to do our best all the way to the point where our heads hit the pillow tonight, and I know you will too. So, again, have you given your heart to the sport of wrestling? I have. And for Danny Sheehan and all those folks at Radio Nova, for my friends and family at Clear Channel and KXNO in Des Moines, for Takedown Wrestling Radio and Television, I'm Scott Casber. Danny, thank you very much one more time. We appreciate the time.
Scott, I can't thank you guys enough. I really appreciate it.
I had a good time, man. Thank you.